All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's right before lunch. It's pretty exciting. Now, that's pretty exciting, but I also got something more exciting to tell you about. Talking about AI. So that's the next big thing. Some say it's the biggest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. Hype? Reality? Let's find out. All right, so my name is Moses, and would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, everyone. My name is Balaji Kumar. I went to school here like 30 years ago. So it's just awesome to be back in Gainesville. So after Gainesville, I did my master's in computer engineering here. I've had a close to 30-year career in technology in various industries. So Verizon, Capital One, 7-Eleven, and most recently as the CTO for the consumer bank and the head of tech infrastructure at Citi. Now I'm at the CTO of Vibrant Capital. We do investments, but also specifically with companies that want to sell to enterprises. We also advise the buyer side, which is the CIOs, the CTOs of the company here. So super excited to see where this AI thing is going at this point.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Tim?
Hi, Tim Youngblood. First of all, I want to say I do not recognize you, Moses. I had dinner with this guy. He had a beard and long hair, and it's totally transformed.
Yeah, I had a little accident this morning. I was trying to shave, and then I was like, "Oops, forgot to put the guard on. There goes my beard." So
that's all right. Look sharp. So, as was stated earlier, I've been in corporate America 30 years or so. So I've been the chief security officer for Dell, Kimberly-Clark Corporation, that's one that's not up there, McDonald's, and T-Mobile. And I am in the CISO Hall of Fame. I have that. That just tells you how old I am, more or less. And now I'm retired from the operational side, and I spend my time angel investing. I'm on a few boards. And I advise about 7 startups now. So, on the angel side, I work with a lot of big angel groups. The Keiretsu Forum, which is the largest angel group in the world. I've been a part of them for several years. In fact, I got nominated as the most valuable member last year. So that means I wrote a lot of checks. So I'm happy to be here. I just relocated from Seattle to Florida. So I'm here in Florida now and loving it. And I just accepted a position as an adjunct professor with the University of Oklahoma.
That's awesome. Very cool. I mean, we've got some very seasoned veterans, industry senior leaders here at our on the panel here today. So, want a show of hands? Who here is working on an AI startup? You guys are dreaming, aren't we? Looks like we got quite a bit of us here. So as you guys know, multiple ways to do this AI thing. You can either sell to businesses or build something yourself and sell to consumers. So we're going to go ahead and just open up our first thing and really try to understand what does it take to get some of these AI products into the hands of these big businesses, these big enterprises. So both Tim and Balaji have been, of course, senior leaders at big companies here. So we're going to open up with the first question here. So when you guys are interacting with entrepreneurs here as they're pitching things to you or companies that are trying to get in the door, working with like large corporations, what is the single most important thing you guys that a startup must show to earn a yes, so they can pilot it in these big corporations?
Oh wow! Yeah. So pilot-wise, so of course, from my experience being on the cybersecurity side, one of the things that I'm always interested in, and all of my peers in large enterprise are interested in, is what's the governance of the solution, the platform that you're trying to sell in. All right, do you have established guardrails in place? Are you aligned to standard control frameworks? Right. So like with AI, a established control framework is the MITRE Atlas. There's the Google SAFE, SAIF, SAFE. There's also the NIST RFM. These are the kind of things that we're expecting that you've sort of built into your platform so that it aligns well with enterprise business.
Right, that's awesome. Yeah, Balaji?
Yeah, we always have someone from the CISO organization in those initial meetings to have all of those questions answered. I think the one thing that I would look for is the tech itself, whatever is being pitched, no matter how hard it was to build it, it's probably the easiest of the conversation, right? The integration within the ecosystem, within the company is the hardest part. So what I mean by that is like, if you are a startup that's working on some sort of a fintech, right, or some sort of like a anti-money laundering solution, for example, right? The AML solution, while it could have been incredibly hard to build, when you pitch it to a finance organization, tech team, what we expect you to also understand is, do you understand how to integrate with the Archer system, for example, the risk and governance system within the enterprise that's already there. Now, if you come to the meeting and basically say, I don't know what that is, that's a no right there, right?
Right.
Because I think there are lots of companies who are building extremely good stuff with the technologies, but very few actually understand the perspective of the buyer in this case. And I've already done some homework and saying that, hey, you, JP Morgan Chase or Citi or American Express, whatever it is, you have these XYZ systems inside your ecosystem, and I know how to integrate it, and this is the proof of concept that I'm going to show you, not just like something on the island here. So that becomes an extremely important conversation on the first meeting.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too, because I think it's really important to understand how your solution fits into the ecosystem, right? And like we said, integrations are king. You know, the more integrations you can make to standard enterprise platforms like Snowflake or ServiceNow, I mean, these are the things that big businesses use. So you've got to be able to show like how you make those better at the end of the day, right? So it's really important, I think, to kind of establish that aspect of, you know, what's your place in the entire eco stack, you know, for a large enterprise.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really important. Now, you guys know the old devil's in the details. So if you're just getting started, how do you even know the requirements to ask? How do you reduce some of that unknownness to be integrated? What advice would you give?
No, I would network a lot, right? In these situations, I would say, if you are selling to enterprises, I think find the right advisors for you to be able to do it. And I would ask questions a lot. Build the product with a customer in mind. For example, I'm advising a couple of startups now. They want to build something along risk engineering, risk and controls frameworks. I've introduced them to a couple of leaders who are actually practicing this on a daily basis in a couple of banks, right? It's not a pitch. It's actually they're building the product now. So now they have a very strong understanding of, hey, I have an idea. Does this even carry merit in the real world? They've had a couple of conversations. The idea has now been validated, right? Now they're actually going like quickly iterating through what that looks like for the first demo here. So I would say do that a lot in those initial phases, without expecting, hey, why don't you write me a check at this point, right? So that's extremely important.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. The partnership is really important. Large companies actually have, many of them do have corporate venture arms, right? So, you know, when I was at McDonald's, we had a corporate venture arm. You know, we acquired startup companies even. T-Mobile, the same thing. I remember at McDonald's, we actually acquired a company called Dynamic Yield to help us with suggestive sell. It was kind of the first time we integrated AI into our digital ecosystem, right? We had, you know, global mobile app, kiosk systems, delivery, digital menu boards. And it was good partnering with them because they started to understand some of the things that we were concerned about, like with suggestive sell. You know, I mean, it was great because we could have a customer come in, you know, select menu items and then suggest what the next menu item based off their eating habits, which sounds good on the surface, but then you start to think, you know, different people from different ethnic backgrounds eat different things. So if you start, you know, providing offers to other people that you don't to certain, it could be a pretty bad meme. So we help them kind of get through that and understand like, hey, this is what works in big business.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. You guys have probably heard the advice, get out the door, meet your customers. So I think that advice here holds as well. So get out the door and start talking to people. So switching gears here, let's talk about so from the enterprise to like now you guys are building your software here. So, you know, one of the things is, so how would founders really balance speed with responsible data handling and security? Let me give you an example real quick before you know, if you guys are into vibe coding, I'm sure a lot of you guys are. Replit, obviously, great piece of software. One of the challenges sometimes with vibe coding is there are sometimes some security vulnerabilities that can be built into there. Some, you know, exposing some API keys, it could happen. Bad idea. So that being said, is how would you suggest that you balance speed with you know, responsible data handling, speed versus security? How would you do that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's really important to understand the controls, like I talked about. I talked about those control frameworks and how you may align to those. The other aspect is data, right? Because data is king, and in the AI world, data is really the fuel that makes it useful. And what is the requirements around you having clean data, right? And so clean data means clean training, which means good, reliable results. And so that's one of the things you have to consider, like, what do you need to do to have clean data, how to make sure that most of the companies you work with won't have that, by the way. And so how flexible is your solution with dealing with that type of issue? That's a big aspect, I think, to this. Another thing is just kind of the ethical standards that I talked about before, right? Have you considered what the ethical guardrails are? We had this thing called the grandma test. Like, if your solution did something that made my grandma embarrassed, then we probably shouldn't be doing it, right? And so you got to think about that aspect of it, as well as just certain things that are associated with how you make sure that solution is going to address the bigger governance issues of the company itself, right? Because you've got privacy concerns, you've got sort of global standards, you've got compliance issues that are associated with that, and like, how do you make sure that you're not going to cause, a compliance impact, right? Because those are the kind of questions you're going to get. And then I think lastly, most of us want to understand how it works, so you have to have explainability. What's the transparency of your solution, of that AI? How can you make sure I have reliable results that we can depend on as a business?
He's the authority on the stage on the on the subject. I would just add that when I've had those sessions with potential partners or companies we want to invest in, CISOs love automation, right? In terms of repeatability. So in this case, it's even not just for partners or startups, but also internal development. The CISO organization is constantly looking for, hey, I have a risk. You're going to build a control. Can the control be repeatable? Will it execute all the time, 100% of the time? And automation is key. So if you are a software development organization, what we are looking for from the outside, from the inside out, is things like, do you have a CI/CD pipeline? Simple stuff. Yes, you do. How do you build it? How do you integrate? What kind of checks do you go through? What kind of security checks do you go through? Do you have observability? You have explainability? All of this should be like day one, I would say, built in by the time you're talking to large enterprises.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So as there is a lot of compliance that could occur, sometimes when you're first getting started, it's like a mountain of compliance, right? Is there like an 80-20 rule? I know you kind of touched on that, CI/CD pipeline. Are you looking for like certain core things, or is it the kind of the attitude of the founders and how they approach safety and security? What's important? Because clearly a day one startup is not going to be able to be fully compliant, or does it have to be fully compliant to work with your organization? How do you guys approach that?
I think it depends on the product itself that is being demoed and the industry that you're demoing to. There are some industries who have such a low risk tolerance that they would expect you to have a lot of those answered on day one, like finance, right? I worked for. Like retail was a different thing. I worked for retail too. The objectives for retail was all margins, right? So the problem statement was all very different in this case. But it's still innovating crazy. But the requirements would not be on day one, could be on somewhere else. But no CISO anywhere or no risk governance saying, hey, I can tolerate low security. No one's saying that at this point, right? So in terms of when we have the discussion, I think it's important. But I think at this point, like when we talk about software cycles, a lot of this is pretty well established. So in other words, we expect it to be table stakes, right? In just like, are you cloud native? Do you understand what it means to work on things like containers, for example? Do you have an automated pipeline, right? Can I have observability? Do you have FinOps, some practice and stuff like that? Some of these, I would say, need not have been implemented on day one, but at least there should have been an opinion that you can share on that first meeting that you have. So it shows that you've thought about these things and you are ready to implement them quickly.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I'd also say, I think initially when AI started to gain some visibility into the corporate space, a lot of people considered it a technology initiative, right? Which was completely wrong. It's a business initiative. And you have to understand, okay, what are the business outcomes and how can I help, drive those outcomes, right? So right now we've kind of crossed this chasm from, sort of co-pilot, aligned LLM results to now we're in this agentic AI world, AI agent world. And, people are looking for results in areas like customer service, internal operations, sales and marketing, security and fraud, right? So those are the things you have to align yourself to because those are the outcome expectations that business is looking for.
That makes a lot of sense. So I want to also just ask you guys real quick. So you guys have obviously had great careers. You've been able to rise through the ranks here. What advice would you give, folks here that are just starting their careers, or sometimes they're just kind of early on, in this field, and how, what advice, what learnings can you take from that?
Yeah, well, and I think we talked a lot about the networking aspect. That's a huge thing. I often say your network is your net worth, and you should meet as many people as you can. There's a challenge coin that I have that says, the next person you meet may change your life, or you may change theirs. And I really believe in that, which is why you should try to connect with as many folks as possible, and that will open up as many doors as possible. And then, look, in the AI space, this is where the money is, right? So, this year there's been $196 billion in funding in AI already, right? And you're seeing this investment happen in really core spaces in data center and power, LLM sort of enhancements. And so you're in the right space if this is where you're focusing your attention, because that's where you're going to get investment. And even in security, there's several VCs that I've been working with for years in this space. Jalot Capital, who I've been working with, they just opened a $500 million fund just for AI. CyberStart's another one that they did a $384 million fund just in AI. And so you got to get in that circle in order to be able to have access to that.
Mine is an engineering perspective, software engineering for 30 years, so stay close to tech, right? That's a temptation to jump, and if you're an enterprise, because companies grow, you become a manager quickly after 3 years, it's easy to lose touch with tech, and it's very hard to get back if you have a paycheck doing something else, I would say. Yes. But it's also easy now with all the vibe coding. We heard vibe coding in the previous. I'm a big user of Replit. I've used Lovable, Bolt, Cursor. It's also easy to get back in tech, but if there's an opportunity to stay deep expertise and be hands-on, do that as long as possible. It's super amazing to be there. The best advice that I've heard is from Professor Newman, who was the network engineering professor at UF 30 years ago. It's still stuck with me. He said, who you work with is more important than what you work on. In an enterprise setting, every time I've gone against it, I've been burnt. So I think it's with the right person you work with, the most boring job can become the most amazing job, because he or she is giving you the latitude, the freedom to do stuff, and you're doing actually things that were not thought of possible. So I would say, if you're interviewing, if you're looking for jobs elsewhere, you should also be interviewing the company, the culture, the manager, and not just one way. So do that, and I think you'll have fantastic careers.
Absolutely. Very cool. So I wanted to kind of tell you something a little non-traditional here. I want to open this up to some questions. I think we have a mic, and we probably have a runner to be able to do that. So we have a few minutes here, so maybe 2 to 3 questions. These, love to open up to questions. So do we have any questions, you guys, for Tim and Balaji? About AI or their experience or anything else? So we got a question over here. We got one over there too.
Obviously, it looks like you guys have some background in non-typically technology-facing companies, and you're doing some really interesting technology for a McDonald's or a 7-Eleven. How do you find that balance of meeting the identity that consumers have placed on you while still innovating internally in a way that your consumers are going to accept?
The consumer, as in, like, for example, if I'm working on Citi, somebody who banks with Citi, I'm assuming, correct?
Like 7-Eleven, right? I want my Slurpees, not my AI.
I don't work at 7-Eleven. Okay. But having said that, I think the tech investments, some of the biggest tech investments, for example, are in the banking financial industry. So in this case, Citi spends about $11 billion a year on tech. JP Morgan was like 17, 18, stuff like that. Retail is lower, depends on which company you are in. But Walmart, for example, has been one of the biggest case studies for several decades in terms of how they've innovated with tech itself. There is this constant tussle right now to be able to innovate, but also run the companies in a safe and sound manner. They do something with AI is like something that's every CEO, every board is asking their chief technology officer or chief information officer at this point. There is a very healthy debate going on in terms of what projects should we continue to do versus what's best for the company in this case and what's best for the customer. So everything in terms of like, can we relieve how customers talk to us? Can we make it easy for them? Can we remove the friction and stuff like that? It's a constant battle while also saying, hey, do I need to expand markets at this point? How do I balance those things? But I think AI has made things a lot more easier to have a conversation because you're not asking for like a $10 million budget to the same project now. You can actually do those things faster and much efficient with like good talent at this point. But it's a battle that goes on because one thing I've seen it is like I manage a $100 million budget at 7-Eleven. I manage a $3.5 billion budget at Citi. In both cases, I didn't have enough money. So it's like it's always the case because the ideas are much more than what the dollars are. But I think the executives pick and choose what's best for the customer versus what's a long-term growth strategy.
Yeah. And I'd also say you'd be surprised. Most companies are tech companies in disguise, right? You take, for example, Kimberly-Clark Corporation that I work for. You wouldn't think a company that sells diapers, Huggies, Kleenex, tissue, that kind of stuff is like, okay, what do they know about tech? But they actually run a use case right now where they work with large corporations and they have sensors in the bathrooms and they can tell when a virus outbreak is about to happen in a building, right? Based off the number of tissue people are pulling, in the bathrooms. And so that tech aspect is really important for them. Same thing, McDonald's. You wouldn't think McDonald's is a tech company, but McDonald's is, at the end of the day, a tech company. And, they were really the first, out with, a digital ecosystem that, is close to, all of their customer sets. And, they have really advanced kind of the digital kitchen, which is really amazing to me that, they have these things called cloud kitchens in certain parts of the world where, they're not manned by any people at all. It's all automated tech, all right, that will take an order and get it to a customer, without any human intervention at all. And, when you're serving 65 million people a day, that matters.
Yep, absolutely. Very, very cool. We got another question over here. And we have one more question after that we can do. We'll do yours.
Hello, sir. Actually, we are working on a product that automates the testing of a hardware using AI. So we went to a hackathon with our product idea and got a really impressive feedback from the juries. So now what we were thinking is to build it, get it patented first, go to different conferences and meet with industry people. But what I heard from you is to get a customer first, talk to them and build a product with their feedbacks. So what should be our ways to get in touch with customers according to you?
Yeah, I'll try to answer that because I don't want to give the impression that's the only way you can do that, right? But it's a preferred way when you have a partner that can help sort of give you some credibility to start off with. And it makes you more attractive to investors, right? If you've got kind of an anchor customer that can validate, what you're doing and saying that this is an important thing in the marketplace that people will actually spend money on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you got a better.
No.
Balaji, sir. Yeah. So right now, what should be done first? Like first building a prototype and then going towards customers, or doing the other way around?
Sorry, I didn't hear the. Can you repeat that, please?
First build our prototype and then go to customers, or go to customers first, ask for their feedback first, and then build.
No, I think we are at a point where everything that, at least from my perspective, we are saying prototypes or a working product first, right? The first meeting has to be a demo at this point, right? There are very rarely such situations where we are, I don't know the specifics about what you are building at this point, but I'm just saying there are very rarely any situations where we go into a meeting and it's just PowerPoint right now. Those days, I think, are gone. But having said that, the approach that I said is one of the approaches as what he was talking about, right? Yeah. But if there is a way for you to find a trusted advisor who can give you feedback in this case, and you can actually build and you go back and iterate, that's great. If you don't have it, I think the approach that you're also doing is perfect. I think you'll have to find a way to get to somebody who can actually give you the feedback, so you can actually go back to a potential customer and saying, I built the product with industry leaders in mind. And I think it will resonate a lot more to the final audience that is going to buy it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll give you another kind of example in this space too. So there's an AI investment that I have in my portfolio called Noma Security. That I was the first angel investor with Noma, and it was actually one guy had an idea. We talked about it literally on the back of a napkin. But he went and he talked with 100 other CISOs about that and validated the idea that way first, and then found design partners to help validate that. So he went that route versus going with the corporate. Now that same founder, he just closed a $100 million Series B 2 months ago, and that was in a year and a half work.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I know we have one more question. However, we're kind of running on time, but we'll do that question privately. You can kind of come up to us here. Just kind of want to wrap things up. Just wanted to again thank Balaji and Tim for being up here. This has been really great for giving us their time to be here. And So last thing I want to leave you guys with, so I am an engineer just like many guys here, but the reality is anyone can be engineers. Engineers are just problem solvers. So as we go into this new AI era, let's keep building and let's keep dreaming and let's build this together. Thanks, everyone.